Welcome to Strong Conversations, hosted by Simpson Strong-Tie, where we bring partners, colleagues, innovators, and leaders together for insightful conversations. We dive into the subjects and issues that we all face, forging stronger connections and relationships along the way. In our How We Got Here series, we talk to leaders in the building industry about how they got to where they are. Some of us are born into the building industry. Some of us fell into it. And some of us took a few detours to find our place. Our guests share stories and insights of not only how they got here, but more importantly, what made them stay. Mike Glassmeyer, VP of National Purchasing for MI Homes, didn't take the linear path to where he is now. Having been in various roles, from being a superintendent to sales, Mike recalls his journey, from dreams of being a fighter pilot as a little boy to being a leader in the industry.
Welcome to the Strong Conversations podcast presented by Simpson Strong-Tie. I am Sam Marcoux, your host. And on this series of podcasts, we're going to be talking to the leaders in the building industry and how they got where they are. Joining me specifically on this episode, Mike Glassmeyer, Vice President of National Purchasing for MI Homes. How you doing, Mike?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. We are in Nashville, Tennessee, and you and I had dinner last night and got to catch up and actually talk a lot about this podcast and this topic in particular. I'm excited to talk to you about this because you and I had some phone conversations, and your path to where you are now as the Vice President of National Purchasing is not a linear one, especially for people in the purchasing arena, is it not?
No, that's probably pretty accurate, but I've taken a lot of different roads and different paths and ended up landing where I did. So I don't know if it wasn't necessarily a straight road, but it was an interesting experience to get here.
We talked about taking a lot of different roads. Let's talk about, and let's start with you getting in the car. As a kid, as a teenager growing up, what was your dream job? Did you want to be a baseball player? Did you want to be president of the United States? What was the dream as a child?
I guess when you say child, I don't know what age that exactly is, but at some point in time in my childhood, my brothers and I thought we were going to be pilots.
Pilots.
Yeah. So, and I distinctly remember my brother and I getting into a fight about stealing each other's goals because I said, I don't know if I said I want to be a pilot first or he did, but we were pretty frustrated or combative about the fact that we were stealing each other's goals.
Well, I mean, you got two pilots in the cockpit, right? You could
so we were flying planes when we were before high school. We were junior high, and we weren't at the age where we could actually go solo or anything, or we didn't have the hours to go solo. But him and I, and my younger brother, I have two brothers. One's older, one's younger. We were all in the air at the same time, and I think it was the best thing ever for our flight instructors because they got to just do whatever. And that's kind of the time when Top Gun came out. Okay. So we were all in the air, like flying planes, these little Cessna, I don't know, Beechcraft or whatever they're called. And we were just chasing each other around the air. So we thought we were Top Gun pilots at the time. And so it was probably pretty dangerous what we were doing because we probably had these instructors, I don't know, 30 years old or whatever at the time, and they've got these young high school, junior high kids, and we were just chasing each other around. So it was pretty fun. So we thought we were going to be pilots, and Top Gun came out, and so I don't know, maybe that was my dream job, is to be a fighter pilot, but I mean, I don't know if that's actually a career because you probably do that from the ages of 28 to 38 maybe, 8-year span, I don't know. But I ended up not doing that.
Well, I mean, I have siblings, and we certainly chased each other around, but never in planes in the air. We didn't have a whole Maverick Goose situation going on. That is fascinating. So did any of you, or not you, but did your brothers become pilots?
So none of us became pilots. However, my older brother, Mark, went, long story short, he ended up creating a business. The business created some merchandise tailored towards pilots, tailored towards flight outfitters. The company's called Flight Outfitters. So he sells specifically to pilots now. He then, I don't know how old he was. He was probably maybe his 40. He's in his early 40s. He decided to go finalize his pilot's license and get his license to be a pilot. So he became a pilot in later years. Then his son, who was at the time 14 or 15, decided I like that path. And then he went to get his license. So now he got his pilot's license the same time he got his driver's license. He was a 16-year-old pilot. So they have kind of gone down that road of being pilots, and but I did not. I went a different road.
Well, you did. You took a different road. But speaking of pilots, we're on that theme here. Tell everyone where you went to college.
University of Dayton.
University of Dayton. So Dayton, Ohio, the birthplace of flight.
That's right. That's true. That's good.
So the Wright brothers and all that. So you go to the University of Dayton. What is your major? What are you studying to become at this point?
So I went to Dayton for athletics. I wanted to continue my athletic career, and I was like, well, I really don't know what I want to do for a major. And business administration seems pretty broad. So let's go into business, and then from there, I'll figure it out once I get into college. And so I ended up going into business, and then majored in marketing, and went into a marketing degree, hoping that with that degree, I have a lot of opportunity to do a lot of different things with it.
Which you've ended up doing, and just so that everyone is aware, so you're flying planes in middle school with your brothers playing tag.
Well, yeah.
You go to Dayton to further and continue your athletic career, which you were a football player, right?
Yeah, so I played football in high school. My first year of football was freshman year of high school, which is, I think, late for most kids.
That's pretty late for football players, yeah.
So I went to Dayton, or I went to high school playing football, and got into it, and I excelled at it. I was pretty good at it. So then I got the opportunity to go to college and play football. And so it kind of took off for me. At some point, I thought I was, going to go into like the military or something, like the whole plane experience, or like, I was just a very structured person at a young age. So I was like, well, military sounds like a good suit for me. Not knowing what I wanted to do. But going into Dayton then, you get into the football program, and it's obviously very structured, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know any football program. Dayton football program is very structured. It is, here's what you do, here's when you do it, here's when you eat, here's when you sleep, here's when you study, here's when you. I was like, okay, this is for me. I can do this. Like I can stay on this regimen. Just follow the outline, right?
It's just right there for you.
All right, so it's kind of laid out. So that's kind of how I fell into it.
Okay, so you finish up football. A lot of big things happen in college for you, right? Obviously, you and I were talking last night at dinner. That's where you met your wife.
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So my wife and I met. It was a religion class. Because Dayton's a Catholic school, and it was mandatory to take a Catholic certain amount of credit hours of Catholic schools classes. So 8 o'clock class, freshman year, first class. We were in we had the same professor, same thing. And so the class of, I can picture the room as it was now, but there was, 30 people in the room, and we're sitting there, and it's like, we didn't meet that first day, but it was kind of like I saw her in the room, and then, from there it was like game on, okay, I'm in this class with this girl, how long is it gonna take me to meet her, kind of thing.
All right, so we talked a lot about your college career, your fighter pilot phase, if you will, your football career. What was the first job you ever had, Mike?
First job, when you say first job, I would say, I think a first job is first paid job.
Yeah.
But before I got paid, I was really helping my father. My father was a home builder, and he had a company that would build a small amount of houses, 5 to 10 homes a year, just on individual lots. And I would go help him. I can remember painting doors or sweeping floors, or I have a vivid memory of him renting a Ryder U-Haul truck, box truck, and opening the door, and we had to go take all the stuff off the lot, load it into the U-Haul truck. Like you typically think of a dumpster where you throw it in, like we would have to pack it in.
Wow.
And then you go to the dump site and you have to pull it all back out, right? So it's like, so I can remember doing that, and I kind of knew the construction industry a little bit. But my first paid job was at Boat Harbor on the Ohio River.
Okay.
And which is a job I really enjoyed loving, because I like boats and I like the water, and it was in the summer and hanging out, but we would go down and gas boats, and I learned a lot of how to winterize boats, and we did fiberglass repair on boats, and we did mechanical stuff on boats, and cleaned boats, and we launched boats. So that was a fun job for me. I enjoyed that. But yeah, so those are kind of my I had the skills of the building industry, kind of like a taste of it.
Right.
And then I worked at the Boat Harbor.
So packing in and packing out the dump truck sounds like somebody who's entry level into the building industry right there, right? Paying your dues, trying to get a big understanding of everything that happens on that build site. Plus you're helping your dad. So, I mean, there's that part of it too. So This fascinated me, Mike, because I didn't know about the plane stuff until you told us right now. I didn't know about the boat stuff until you told us right now. So we got a whole
That's why we're doing this, right? I mean, that's why
we got to get to know each other right here. How did we get here? Well, we could have taken a plane or a boat, apparently. We took an Uber.
Yeah.
That's how we got here physically here. But so your first job is at Boat Harbor. And then when do you make the transition, I guess, back into the building industries?
Well, I mean, I enjoyed boats, and the Boat Harbor job was a great job to do. Just fun to do. You're with people, you're in the sun, you know. It was, it's like being a lifeguard, right? It was kind of fun, and I enjoyed like the mechanical stuff, and but so that wasn't the best job I probably had as a young child.
Okay.
And then I went to the University of Dayton, like we talked, and I was strictly athletics, right? It was like the regiment was so tough, and it was studying. I wasn't a great student. I was a lower B student. So it's like, okay, hey, in order to do football and do my academics, I was like, I was on it. And that's probably why, not probably why, but that's why I leveraged my wife to help me with my my note taking in the classes and stuff. So you were telling me last night at dinner that part of, I guess, maybe how you guys met, you were using her notes in class. Is that right? I did, but that was probably just an excuse to talk to her.
There you go.
I mean, probably. It was not probably. It was. So anyhow, yeah. So we traveled. I think like I told you last night. We traveled. When we had an away game, we used to have to leave on a Thursday, and the class was a Tuesday, Thursday class. So if you didn't make class on Thursday, you had class once a week. You're missing 50% of your classes.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, I need your notes. Can I borrow your notes? And little did she know though that I didn't take any notes, because whenever I had a notebook, I just copied the whole thing. Why would you just take that one day's notes when you can take the whole class? Right? Leverage the opportunity, right?
There you go.
So anyhow, at Dayton, did athletics, and then if you fast forward through my whole Dayton career, 4-year career, then you come to a point where, okay, now you got to do something else.
Yeah.
Like athletics you're not going to the NFL. Like what's next in your life? So a small company that I didn't know anything about NVR, Ryan Holmes, obviously a huge company now, came to campus to do on-site interviews.
Okay.
Their VP of sales came to campus and said, hey, we're looking for some people that are willing to work in the home building industry. We're going to train you. We're going to teach you. We're going to give you a truck check, cell phone, big cell phones back in those days, right? Cell phone probably meant like a roll of quarters or something, but and manage job sites. I was like, well, I've done that. My dad built houses. I know how to do that, right? I would love to do that. And I wasn't a guy, after being in the athletic industry or in the athletics, I wasn't like, I'm going to sit in a cubicle from 9 to 5. And like, I can't picture myself in a cubicle. So yeah, being outside and managing job sites and building houses, like this kind of seems like it might be a good fit. So like, what do I have to lose? And the money was okay. I mean, it's pretty good. It's like better than I thought I was going to get coming out of college. I think the average salary coming out of college back then was like $25,000 or something. Like, I was like, this is, and they were going to, so I was like, yeah. And so I remember going and saying, I'm in. And this is a side note too, but they said, hey, you should buy some stock in our company. This company's going to grow. We came out of bankruptcy in the late 80s, and this is probably the mid-90s, late 90s. So you should buy stock in our company. We're going to grow this business. And it was $32 a share.
Wow.
A stock. Now it's $7,000
wow.
a share. So I was a poor college kid. I have a lot of money, right? So I was like well, shoulda, coulda, woulda stories, but then we all have those, I guess. But
that would have been a different podcast of where we are.
Right. Yeah.
So how long were you there? How long did you do that job?
So I was with Ryan Holmes, NVR Ryan Holmes, for 12 years.
Okay.
Ish. Yeah. So I started as assistant superintendent.
Okay.
Which I worked in the Cincinnati area, managing a job site, and I had a mentor at the time that was kind of showing me like, here's how you do it. And I had one community. I had one house, and I had one community, and then I had 2 communities, and I had 3 communities, and it just kept growing. And I got good at it. Probably one of the more stressful jobs I've ever done. But it was interesting.
Why was it so stressful? You and I talked about that a little bit, but let everyone know listening to this or watching this right now, why is that role as a superintendent Why is that stressful?
Yeah, it was stressful, and I don't know if I knew how stressful it was at the time because I didn't have much to measure it against.
Sure.
Right? Because you come out of college and you're new to the working world,
Right.
and you're like, okay. I had always football's like, okay, you got to do your best. You got to do this. You got to get that. Now you get in the real world. Now you're okay. Here's what work's like. Here's what you got to do to achieve work's like. And so I don't think I knew how stressful or intense it was, or the pressures that were on you. Honestly, until I took like an office job, I was like, well, that was crazy hard. This is a lot easier. But it was just the timelines and the number of houses I had to build, and the way they do it, and probably other home builders do it, is the equivalency rating. Like that, if you have a small house, it's one house. If you have a larger house, it's 1.5. Maybe a 4,000 square foot up is like 2 houses, equivalency factors. And I had built 75 houses in 1 year, and I had 3 guys working for me doing 4 communities. And it was just like, is the timelines, and that was back before we had the scheduling stuff and the apps and so everything was on paper, everything was a phone call, everything was where you at.
What was that delivery timeline back then? Was it 6 months per house or more or less?
Oh, no, it was less.
Yeah.
It was about 110 days.
Really?
Yeah, we were turning houses very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah. And, I don't know if the customer demands were as great as they are now. Maybe that's one of the things that's changed over the last few years is the expectations of the customers.
What do you attribute that to?
I don't know.
Is the internet and just everyone having more access to information and more transparency into the whole process, or?
Maybe the expectations have obviously grown. I think expectations in every industry have kind of grown. Like if you go out to dinner and it's not a good experience, I think your expectations, and you're paying $200 for a meal, I think your expectations are kind of high. And I don't know if they were, I don't know if that's the factor to it or not, but I'm not sure. I think maybe we're starting to trend down towards the way it used to be, because everyone's kind of starting to be now is happy to have a house.
Yeah.
Again, because I think for a while there, maybe in the early 2000s, it was easy to get a house. It was easier to get a house,
right?
Because the interest rates are so low, and now you're gonna pay a lot for the house, maybe more, and so your expectations are a little bit higher. I'm not really sure. It was just interesting the way it worked out, though. That you could communicate with the customers easier, and there was the dialogue with the customers were easy. So I don't know. I'm not really sure.
Well, what I am sure about, so you said 12 years that you were...
with NVR.
And that was as a superintendent, assistant and superintendent the whole time?
No. So I was when I was with Ryan, I started as superintendent, or assistant superintendent, then went to superintendent, ended up running 4 communities, and I wanted to go into, I was kind of ready for my next step kind of thing. So they asked me, or I think I pushed them. I was like, okay, I'm ready. I want to be a production manager.
Okay.
I'm like, well, no, if you want to be a production manager, you really have to go through sales first. If you want to really climb our ladder, you got to go to the sales end of it. I was like, well, I'm not a sales guy. I'm a construction guy. I'm a football guy. I'm not a sales guy. They're like, well, just do it. It's like, oh, all right, that's fine. So I went, and they sent me to West Virginia and did their HIT training, high intensity training and sales training, and end up selling houses and model home. And I had been building houses for 4 years at this point. So I was, customers would come in. It's like, well, hey, why should I buy Ryan House? Like, well, let me tell you about the painter, the framer.
Knowledge.
Here's how we do this. Here's how we do that. And I knew the product, right? So I could and I didn't come off the salesy because I wasn't a sales guy. I was just talking about the product and the pride I had in building those 75 houses a year that I had done for the last 4 years.
I'm going to disagree with you on the sales thing, because going back to how you met your wife and using her notes and using that to go and meet the lady that you saw that first class,
well,
I think you got a little bit of sales in you before you got the HIT training and everything else. You were maybe more of a natural than you think.
I don't know. So that was so I did the sales. So I ended up sitting and selling houses and I was young. I was in my I guess I was in my early 20s, and I was 100% commission, right?
Okay.
So it's like and you're selling houses. I'm like, well, this is, and I knew the houses, I knew the product. I was like, well, this is fantastic. Like I'm making good money, and I love it. So, but I wasn't a sales guy, so I knew I wasn't doing it forever.
Right.
So I was like, okay, now I need an exit strategy to get out of this, to do this.
So just looking at this, I'm making some notes here, Mike, as you talk. So you start as an assistant superintendent, you move on to superintendent, you go over to sales, even though you're not a sales guy by your own volition. You know it wasn't a long-term play there, but you get a lot of good, valuable experience. And then you leave sales and you go where?
So after sales, I went into the purchasing role. And I'm not exactly sure how that transition took place, or maybe the opportunity was available. I know that I didn't know much about purchasing coming out of sales. I knew construction, I kind of learned sales. Okay, now go do purchasing.
Yeah.
Well, what is that?
What does that mean?
Just start buying stuff. Like, do I spend my own money, or like, how does this work? So I learned that it's a lot of volume, high volume, a lot of products, a lot of different products, and a very strong emphasis on margins and the value of volume as it relates to price, right? So, and I did that role for 3 or 4 years, 3 years, I guess it was, 3.5 years, as the purchasing role. And then the market took a crap. I mean, now we roll into like 06, 7, 8.
Yeah.
And anyone who was a division president was a general manager, sales managers became sales reps. So it was kind of like this whole thing. And just with the market slowing down and the volume of houses slowing down. And so I looking around, it's like, well, it's going to take forever to kind of get promoted because they have so much talent. It's flooded with talent with all these people. And I had a friend that had gone to MI Homes 2 years prior. And she said, hey, MI's growing in the market. They're going to revamp, reload, and they're looking for talent. And so it was kind of like a leap of faith to kind of make the transition over to MI Homes. I mean, granted, I've been in the home building industry now for 25 years almost, and I've only been with 2 companies. Yeah. So it was a big deal for me to make the jump over to MI Homes, not knowing them very well. And at the time, MI was kind of like the low-cost leader in the market, in the Cincinnati market. That's how I knew them, in the Cincinnati market. So I said, and the opportunity was to go over to there, and I was actually going to go over there as a sales manager, run the sales team. And I think at the time they had 20, 25 salespeople at the time. So I did. And then I was supposed to start a new market. We were going to start a new market in the North area and revamp their footprint in the Cincinnati market. So I did. So I went over there as a sales manager, had a sales team, run the sales team, and it was great for a short period of time. But I'll call it the recession or the downturn hung around for a little bit longer than we all thought. We were trying to sell houses. I can remember we were trying to sell houses in the market for $99,000. It was like under $100,000. I mean, we even have conversations about putting a house with a carport on the side. That was actually in our conference room conversations. And at some point we looked at each other like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? So, and I think the company looked at like, what are we doing? So at some point they came in and the president that was running the Cincinnati office, they made a change there to take that Cincinnati division in a different direction.
So I'm doing the tally here. I think you had 5 distinct roles prior to making, as you said, a leap of faith and jumping over to MI as a salesperson again, or on the sales team.
Yeah, it was construction to sales to purchasing back to sales.
So, like you said, you've been in the industry 25 plus years. You've been with 2 companies. Mm-hmm. You haven't moved companies around a lot. But so I know you said you had a friend there and there was an opportunity and things were kind of changing there. But was there an ultimate decision factor of like, I'm going to take this risk. I'm going to go to this other company that I don't have intimate knowledge of other than, as a competitor.
Yeah.
What ultimately said, yeah, I'm going to do this?
I don't know what the final decision was. I know any decision I make, I probably overthink it way too far. And, but I guess this goes back to my Dayton days. My parents saying, "Hey, just go with your gut."
Yeah.
Like I didn't know where I wanted to go play football at. And I was like, I had a chance to go to a couple of different areas, and I don't know, my mom or my dad said, "Just what's your gut telling you want to do?" And it's like, okay, well, I'll go to Dayton. Yeah. Obviously, great decision, right? I mean, I ended up being very successful at Dayton and met my wife at Dayton. And if you rewind and you don't go to Dayton, it changes your life drastically.
100%.
That's a drastic decision. Right? So, okay, well, that worked out. go with my gut. So, going from Ryan over to MI, it's like, okay, well, go with your gut. It's like, okay, well, it feels right. I think I can make the most of it. Made the decision and went to MI, and I was leading the sales team. And we were doing this, like I said, the entry-level houses and stuff. And it wasn't working.
Yeah.
And so thank goodness the company made a decision to bring in a new division president. And the division president was from Phoenix. And he came in and he said, okay, we're going to do this a different way. We're not going to build a $99,000 house anymore. We're going to build these $300,000 and $400,000 houses, which nowadays would be $500,000 and $600,000 houses, probably, right? So it was like, okay, we got to reload the gun. We got to get new product. All the floor plans got to get redone. It's like basically starting a new division. Like you got to just redo everything. New product, vendors. And so he came in to lead the division and was going to take a new direction. And he brought like a college coach, you bring your offensive coordinator with you. He brought his sales leader with him from his prior company. And so therefore, he knew I had costing experience. So then, he shifted me over to the costing side, purchasing side. And so we had all this new product coming in, different floor plans. And so he have a new sales manager now, and I shifted over back to the purchasing side. So now I'm back in the purchasing realm after coming out of sales. So I started doing purchasing. We had new product out, and we went from buying C locations to buying A+ locations, and it blew up. And the market started to give us some wind too. We got some wind in our sales from the market. This is probably 2010, 11, 12, 13. We started to really get the wind, and interest rates helped us. We started to take off. The market took off, and from there it's exploded since then.
So what's interesting about that last change that you're talking about is it wasn't something that you went out and pursued and said, well, I'm going to go do this. It almost sounded like, hey, we're making a change. We want you in the organization still, but we think you would be better served over here on the costing side versus sales. What was that conversation like for you? Was that a hard thing to say? This is was it cast down on you? Was it that simple? You're doing this or you're not?
Yeah, probably. I think it was. I don't remember the exact color of it, but it was. The opportunity. We had a salesperson come in. He had a salesperson he was going to put in place, but I still had a lot to offer, I think. Yeah. And so it's like, this is what we're doing. This is our vision. This is where we're headed. Can you be a part of it? And I was like, obviously after doing construction and okay, I'll do sales. Okay, I'll do costing. Okay, I'll do this. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do purchasing again. I just want to be, and we had this vision of what we wanted to become over the next 5-10 years. And so it's like, yeah, I want to be a part of it.
Well, and you were a part of it. It sounds like you obviously were a huge contributor to getting to where you guys are now. So when did you get the title of VP of National Purchasing? When did that?
So I was doing the purchasing role for several years in Cincinnati. And then at some point, it would have been, I know the date because of COVID has stamped everything into our heads. Yeah. It would have been like September, November of 2019. They said, would you be willing to do the VP of purchasing role? I said, yeah, absolutely. It's great. It sounds like a great opportunity. Something I haven't really dipped my toe into yet. You got to move to Tampa. I was like, well, I got 2 kids in high school. I can't really move to Tampa. And this is before COVID, before everyone was like working remotely. So I was like, well, you're going to be traveling some, and you're going to be working different divisions. So really, you don't have to go to Tampa. You can stay where you're at in the Cincinnati office and work out of the office. All right, I'm in. I'm 100%. So, so I said, I'm in. I'll do it. And then, so that was like an end of 2019. And so I had like 4 or 5 months of normalcy. And then COVID happened, and it was March. And I said, I was at a builder conference and COVID hit. And I was like, everyone's like, oh, no one can fly home. Like the airports are shut down. Like,
you were stuck?
We were, but we got on the flight. And the airport was a shit show.
Right.
I mean, it was crazy. And everyone's trying to get back home. And schools are shutting down, and kids are out of school. And I mean, the world's blowing up. You guys know the story. But anyhow, I was at a conference, and no one knew what was about to happen, nor did I, obviously. But it was after that, I was like, okay, home building's done. Like, no, we're never gonna sell another house for the rest of the year. It's like, and then it was like this calm before the store for like a year, like a month.
Yeah,
right?
the exact opposite.
It was like a month, and then it was like, oh my gosh. So then there was like, everybody's selling houses. It's like, it's blowing up. Everyone's living from home, working from home. Everybody needs a new house. And,
Yeah.
And then, so our sales took off, and then all of a sudden, wait a minute, we don't have enough product. So now I'm in this role for 5 or 6 months, and sales are unbelievable, and there's no product, and everybody's turning to me like, hey, Mike, I need more stuff.
Need more things.
I need more stuff.
Yeah.
Where's the stuff at? So now I'm trying to figure out the supply chain, work with Simpson and work with all the BFSs of the world and the Hardys and the drywall companies, and trying to get the most allocation I can and get your arms around what's going on, and still trying to meet people. So that was a chaotic time in my life. It was like a learn by fire, I guess, is the correct expression.
And especially coming in and only having that, like you said, 4 to 5 months normalcy before all of this really happens. I mean, you probably are still trying to, get your business cards ready and all this other stuff. And now the whole thing has been flipped on its head in terms of what the role is and what the demands are.
Sure.
That's insane. We're talking to Mike Glassmeyer, Vice President of National Purchasing for MI Homes. A couple other questions for you, Mike. I'm just kind of curious in general, if you were to go back to when you're about to hop on that plane and start flying around with your brothers, what's the advice you would give yourself that you think would help you today? What do you know now that you didn't know then that you would tell yourself?
I don't know exactly what the advice would be. It may be something to the effect of, can I say that it was advice that I actually took and led to? Because I think in my career, I had an opportunity to change paths and to do something different. I had some job opportunities that were in different industries.
Yeah.
And I didn't take them because I enjoyed home building. I knew home building. I was comfortable with home building. And so I stayed that path, and I didn't take those detours.
Right.
And having done that, it landed me where I am today. So maybe the advice would be, hey, Mike, you're going to have the opportunity to do other things, but if you are passionate about home building and you want to stay the course, it's going to work out and you'll be successful doing in the industry. So maybe that's advice that I would give to myself that I actually took and worked out to be good advice.
That works for me. And you still took, like you said, kind of a different winding path. You just did it within the industry as opposed to jumping in, jumping out, or whatever the case may have been. All right, last question for you, Mike. This is the most important question that you're going to get from me on Strong Conversations here. You go into work in an ideal state. You're throwing on, I was going to say the radio, but nobody was really listening to radio. You're throwing on your playlist.
Yeah. There's no podcast.
But what about now? What's the ideal state? We're in Nashville right now. We're in one of the biggest music, iconic music cities in the world. What's playing at work for you right now? What's getting you through the day musically?
Oh, music-wise?
Yeah.
That is an interesting question because I don't have a one genre, if you will. At work, it's hard to always listen to music because it's always the phone. You're always on the phone. Or I would say, though, that it depends what I'm doing, if I can answer it that way.
Yeah.
So if you're on a boat and you're on the water, maybe it's No Shoes Nation with Kenny Chesney.
Okay.
If you're in the gym, maybe it's Metallica on the Pandora's radio.
There you go.
If you're on a long run, this kind of, I started running later in my career, but if you're on a long run, it's something that not Eric Church. Eric Church is another good one. Eric Church, Pandora, because they have all that. They're very good music. So I like Eric Church music too. Eric Clapton was the name I was thinking of.
Okay.
Eric Clapton, because when you're running, you want to keep your heart low.
Right.
And just go for a long time. Right. So it's a good calming music to listen to. So it kind of varies depending on what you're doing.
There you go. So I got Eric Clapton, Eric Church, Kenny Chesney, and Metallica. That's what's.
It's a mix, right?
That's getting you through the day.
Well, it's a broad mix. Yeah.
Right on. Well, Mike, thank you very much for being here on the Strong Conversations podcast, talking about how you got where you are, like you talked about at the beginning of this, winding roads, but it's not just the roads, it's the planes in the air as a youth, it's working on boats, it's listening to the music along the way, taking multiple jobs with 2 different companies, sticking your neck out there, into the sales realm, even though you're not a quote unquote sales guy, getting all of this just wonderful knowledge to help you get where you are today, which is the Vice President of National Purchasing for MI Homes. Thank you so much for being here. And stay tuned for more episodes of the Strong Conversations podcast and with more leaders talking about how they got here.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Strong Conversations, where we got an in-depth look inside the minds of leaders who are reshaping and advancing the world we build and live in.